What happens when a brand built on Discord communities and limited edition drops decides to spend £500,000 on TV advertising? That's exactly what we did in 2024 with our Hack Your Brain campaign. It was one of the boldest moves in Sneak Energy's history, and honestly one of the most interesting case studies in challenger brand marketing I've seen recently. Welcome to Behind the Sneak, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on our biggest campaigns and marketing decisions. I'm Mohammed Bilal, and today I'm sitting down with Annie, our senior marketing strategist who led the Hack Your Brain campaign from concept to execution. Annie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mohammed. I'm excited to break down what we did and why we did it. When we started planning this campaign back in early 2024, we knew we were taking a massive risk. Sneak had been built on this foundation of exclusivity and community. Discord drops, limited editions, partnering with smaller streamers who genuinely loved the product. That intimate underground feel was our identity. But then we had to ask ourselves a difficult question. How do we grow without losing what made us special in the first place? How do we go mainstream and keep our community on board? That was the challenge Hack Your Brain was designed to solve.
Over the next 15 minutes, we're going to dive deep into that journey, how we took Sneak from selling powder tubs online to our gaming community to putting ads on Sky TV and billboards across the UK. We'll talk about who we targeted, how we reached them, the channels we used, and whether the strategy actually paid off. But first, let's set the scene. Annie, take us back to where Sneak was before this campaign launched.
Right. So Sneak Energy was founded in 2018 by Johnny Teeling and Will Pierce here in Manchester. The pitch was simple. Create an energy drink that actually worked for gamers and creative types. Without all the sugar and artificial junk you'd find in Monster or Red Bull. Zero sugar, natural caffeine, vitamins, amino acids. A formula designed for sustained focus, not a quick crash. But what made us different wasn't just the product. It was our go-to-market strategy. We didn't try to compete on shop shelves. We went fully direct to consumer. We built everything around community. We had over 40,000 members on Discord. We partnered with gaming influencers, not the massive celebrities, but smaller streamers who genuinely used our product and believed in it. And we did these limited edition drops where new flavors would sell out in minutes. One drop we did, called Legacy, sold out in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. That's the power of scarcity and community loyalty.
That scarcity model is fascinating from a content marketing perspective. What you did brilliantly was turn your customers into content creators. The Discord community became a hub for user generated content. This aligns with what Chaffee and Smith discuss in their work on digital engagement strategies. You weren't just selling a product, you were building a movement. And it worked. By 2021, just 3.5 years in, Sneak had sold over 20 million drinks. Then came the acquisition by True for more than £50 million. That's when things changed, right?
Exactly. The acquisition completely changed the game. Suddenly we had serious investment backing and, with that, pressure to grow. You can't just stay niche forever when you've got that kind of funding and those kinds of expectations. We needed to scale. We needed to reach beyond our core gaming community. But we also knew that if we scaled wrong, we'd lose everything that made Sneak valuable in the first place. The community trust, the authenticity, the brand identity. That's where Hack Your Brain came in.
Let's break down what you actually did. Summer 2024, Sneak's first major above the line advertising push. For anyone unfamiliar with the term, above the line means mass media advertising, TV, billboards, the traditional channels that reach millions of people beyond your existing followers. You committed over £500,000 to this campaign for a challenger brand. Uh, that's a serious financial commitment. First, and this was huge, your first ever television advertisement on Sky TV. That's a massive step for a brand that built itself entirely online. Then out of home advertising, billboards across Northern England and Scotland. Interesting choice there, by the way. not London, which would have been the obvious expensive option. You targeted regions where your audience actually lived and where advertising costs were lower but still impactful. Annie, walk us through the tactical execution.
The beauty of the campaign was that we stayed true to our roots even while going mainstream. Yes, we did TV and billboards, but we also showed up at MCM Comic-Con London. Over 100,000 people attended that event, and it was exactly the audience Sneak had always targeted. Gamers, creators, fans of pop culture. We set up a massive presence there and handed out samples. Actually, across the entire campaign, we distributed over 100,000 samples. That's a lot of free drinks, but it was strategic. It got our product into people's hands and let them experience what we were about. The campaign was projected to reach over 6 million consumers. That was a massive step up from community-focused marketing. But it was calculated. We weren't abandoning our community. We were bringing them with us as we expanded.
Let's talk about the core message. Hack your brain. That's a bold claim. What were you trying to communicate with that positioning? The campaign leaned heavily into the functional benefits of the product. The idea that Sneak's formula, the natural caffeine, Panax ginseng, taurine, choline, gave users a cognitive edge. It hacked their brain for better focus and performance. Your CEO at the time, Ashley Reed, described it as giving consumers that mental boost that can feel like a hack for your brain. You were positioning Sneak as more than just energy. It was about mental performance, cognitive enhancement. This was clever positioning because you weren't competing on Red Bull's extreme sports angle or Monster's rock and roll aesthetic. You were differentiating on cognitive performance. It aligned perfectly with your core audience, people who needed sustained focus, while also appealing to a much broader market.
Understanding our target audience was absolutely critical to this campaign's success. Traditionally, Sneak's core audience had been gamers. Young, mostly male, about 67%, aged roughly 23 to 34. People spending long hours gaming, streaming, creating content. Health conscious, skeptical of mainstream brands, and they valued authenticity above everything. But here's what we figured out early on. Our real target audience was actually broader than just gamers. We called them the creative class. Videographers, photographers, designers, people doing late-night work or afternoon shifts. Anyone who needed sustained mental focus without the sugar crash. With Hack Your Brain, we were trying to expand beyond gaming while keeping that core audience fully engaged. It was a balancing act. We couldn't alienate the gamers who built us, but we also needed to show the creative class that Sneak was for them too.
From a discoverability perspective, keyword strategy and SEO played a huge role in this campaign. You positioned Sneak around specific search terms: zero sugar energy drink, natural caffeine, gaming energy, focus drink. These are what we'd call body and long tail keywords. They are specific enough to attract people with genuine purchase intent, but broad enough to capture new audiences beyond your core community. The Hack Your Brain messaging aligned perfectly with informational search intent. People searching for best energy drink for focus or energy drink without crash. That's exactly what Sneak offered, and your content was optimized to show up for those queries. There was a real synergy between the TV advertising building broad awareness and the digital content capturing that search traffic. The hub and spoke model in action, which brings us to your channel strategy.
Our channel strategy was built on what's called the hub and spoke model. Let me explain how this worked for us. The hub was our website, our direct-to-consumer platform where we controlled the entire customer experience, collected data, and maintained those high margins that made the business sustainable. The spokes were all the channels driving traffic to that hub: TV advertising, billboards, social media, events like Comic-Con, influencer partnerships, and, this is important, retail distribution. Now, retail is where things got complicated for us strategically. We partnered with distributors like World of Sweets to get our cans into convenience stores. You could now find Sneak in game stores and Spar locations across Scotland. On one hand, this was great for reaching new customers and generating revenue. On the other hand, it created a tension with our brand identity. Remember, the whole appeal of Sneak was built on scarcity and exclusivity. Limited drops that sold out in minutes. You had to be part of the community to even know when new products were launching. And now you could just walk into a shop and buy one. That was the strategic gamble we took.
That tension between exclusivity and accessibility is really the heart of this whole campaign, isn't it? From a content distribution perspective, what you did was maintain your Discord community and influencer partnerships to keep the core engaged while using mass media to build awareness at scale. It was genuinely integrated multi channel marketing, but there was an inherent risk. You might lose what made you special in the first place. That underground exclusive feel that the original community loved, the brand identity that set you apart from Monster and Red Bull in the first place. Uh, Annie, let's get critical here. Looking back at the campaign now, what worked and what were the real risks you faced?
Looking back, I think the biggest strength of the campaign was its integration. The messaging was genuinely consistent across every single touchpoint. Hack Your Brain worked whether you were seeing it on a Sky TV ad, on a billboard in Manchester, at Comic-Con, or on a can in a Spar. That kind of consistency is incredibly hard to achieve, especially when you're working across so many different channels. We also managed to scale up our spend massively without abandoning our community roots. We were still doing events, still active on Discord every single day, still working with the same influencers who'd supported us from the beginning. We didn't forget where we came from. We just brought our community along for the ride as we grew. That said, the risks were very real.
Let's talk about those risks honestly. Going mainstream always carries the danger of alienating your core fans. The people who love Sneak because it felt underground, because it felt like their thing, might not love seeing it advertised on TV like any other energy drink. Uh, there was also a very real financial risk. £500,000 was a lot of money. If the campaign hadn't converted into significant new customers and retail sales, that would have been a massive hit for a challenger brand. The big question everyone was asking was, can Sneak successfully become a mainstream brand while keeping the community loyalty that built it? Looking back now, several months after the campaign launched, I think it's still too early to say with certainty whether we got that balance perfectly right. But the attempt itself was worth studying.
You were clearly trying to walk that line between growth and authenticity, and that makes this campaign a genuinely interesting case study. Annie, final thoughts as we wrap up? I think there are 3 big takeaways from the Hack Your Brain campaign that apply beyond just Sneak energy. First takeaway, scaling a brand isn't just about spending more money. It's about scaling your message in a way that resonates with new audiences while staying true to your core identity. If you lose your identity in the pursuit of growth, you've lost everything. Second takeaway, multi-channel marketing only works if your brand voice is genuinely consistent. Hack Your Brain worked across every platform we used, and that wasn't an accident. That was the result of careful planning, clear messaging guidelines, and relentless execution. Third takeaway, and this is the most important one, community trust is incredibly hard to build and incredibly easy to lose. When you decide to go mainstream, you're making a bet that your core fans will stick with you. That's not a bet to take lightly. For Sneak, only time will tell if we made the right call. But we went into it with our eyes open, and we did everything we could to honor the community that built us.
And that's all for today's episode of Behind the Sneak. Annie, thank you so much for pulling back the curtain and giving us the inside story of Hack Your Brain. If you want to learn more about Sneak Energy or this campaign, check out the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.